Demographic collapse. How big of a problem is it? Are demographics destiny? Do we have to follow that? Hi, my name is Steve, and welcome to Awake with Steve, where I talk about the problems that keep me up at night, the events that keep me up at night. One of them is demographics. It's one of the few of my train wrecks, if I refer back to one of my earlier videos. It's one of the few train wrecks that I don't have some sort of a solution for offhand technically. Technical tool of one sort or another, biological fix, something. And I really don't have that yet. So let's go back to the beginning, and I'll work my way back to where I am today with it. I was first introduced to this as a problem by a Peter Zeihan book. The End of the World is Just the Beginning. Affiliate link in the description below. And for all of when I refer to books or videos, etc., there will be links in the description below. I'll just throw that out there early. My first initial reaction on reading the book, population is going to decrease substantially. That's great. I've often said for many, many years now that most of our problems would go away if we cut the population in half. Less pollution, more food, etc., and so forth. The problem's not quite as neat as that. One is the most immediate problem with the decreasing population is it's in combination with an increasing lifespan. So we get more and more older people, retired people, right, who are expecting to be able to retire, to not have to work until they die. Not only that, but they're going to require services. They're going to require more health care, retirement homes. They're going to go out to eat more. They're going to go on cruises. They do more and more stuff, but a population of younger people, a much smaller population of younger people, needs to provide those services and help to pay for them. So it's like it becomes a timing issue. Okay, you've got to pay for all the old people until they die, and then, and only then, do the younger people get the life that they want. And that assumes that the population is going to stabilize at some point. At some point, we get a small enough population that women decide they're going to have more babies. Does that happen? If it does, that's great. We can kind of go back to raising more kids per woman, and getting a much nicer world. Yeah, more fair, hopefully. May or may not happen that way, but that would be my thought. The other one is, the other direction is, what happens if it doesn't stabilize? What happens if women just continue with the way they've been going and having fewer and fewer children? Well, that means extinction of the human race at some point, carried to its logical conclusion. Guess where my mind takes me when I start getting a bit anxious about it? It takes me right here, really, really fast. We're done. There is no solution. We're going to go extinct. Okay, so I think, is there some sort of technology or something that we can address, some tool that we can use to bring about an increase in population? Okay, the first thought is, well, get women to have more babies. Yeah, how do you go about doing that? there have been many governments over the last couple of decades who have been working on a solution to that problem, starting with Japan. 20, 30 years ago, their population was already starting to run into this issue. There is no solution at this point. We've tried bonuses, childcare, stipends, more time off for mothers, family leave, etc. Extended, a couple of years of family leave. Doesn't seem to matter. So, not quite sure how we're going to go from that. Okay, so anyway, the other one, there is a technical solution that we're not quite capable of at this point in time, and that's cloning. Cloning human beings. Yeah. Ethical issues there all over the place, not to mention practical issues of you have to raise them once you've cloned them, and economic issues of how are you going to pay for all this? Again, lots of issues. That would be a whole video in itself. And probably for me, it'd be close to a rant of some sort. So we'll just kind of table that particular solution for now. So I think one of the ways that I start dealing with this is I look at what causes the problem. What are the basic causes? Why do women not have children? The research that's out there says lots of women say they want to have children or they want to have more children and they don't. The thing that I'm hearing now is, well, that's because they get into their career and by the time they actually decide that they've reached a point where they can have children, then they need to find a mate first. And it just turns out they're too late. By the time they find a mate that's acceptable for having children with them and then have children, it's too late. They're too old. Problem. So let's look at what the issues are, or what I perceive to be the issues. And if you have other ideas, comments below. Certainly would appreciate them. One is, Peter Zeihan talks about this, and several other people do now. It's become kind of almost a mantra. And that is, it's just too damned expensive to raise kids. When everybody was farming, subsistence farming, basically, kids were a benefit. You have more hands, more labor. Now that we're becoming more urbanized, or in the US, more suburbanized, kids are expensive. Okay. They do not add to your revenues, to your income as a family. They're expensive. You got to pay for clothes and toys and school and hospital bills. And and people don't feel that they earn enough money to accept that expense. Yeah, I can understand that. Another thing that keeps popping up is, and I find this kind of interesting, this could be lots of videos on this one, is women have more options than they have ever had in history. They do not have to decide between not having sex, going into a monastery from the Christian paradigm, or getting married and having kids. That was pretty much their options. Now, with the advent of birth control, the advent of women being introduced into the workplace, in an equitable manner, they have a whole lot more options than having kids. They don't, and they are exercising those options. And that's part of our economy now. I don't know of any nation which would any nation that has, in which the population has a say, shall we accept that premise, reducing its economy by I don't know what, a third to a half by taking women out of the workforce. Not to mention you have a lot of pissed off women. Ooh, not a pretty picture. So I see that as the two basic problems. Oh, there's a third one. The world is so messed up. It's just, I don't want to bring children into this world. Okay. So there's three problems. One, as the population decreases, at some point, the old people die off and we start cleaning up the environment, or the environment will start cleaning up itself, actually. Life won't be so bad. So perhaps more women will want children earlier. I'm probably not going to hope on that too much. So how do we deal with that? Are those the issues? I recently ran across a video from if alt history, something like that. Link in the description below. It's a YouTube channel which explores history, basically. And this particular video went through the historical cycles that he's picking up on, about an every 100-year cycle, plus or minus. And his findings at this point, his observations are that we've also gone through periods where the birth rate went up and down, depending. And his finding is that, when it goes down, then there's usually a war or a societal collapse of some sort, or turmoil. And when we come out of it, we pick up some religion, or societal norms change enough so that women are pressured into having children, having large families. The issue that I have with that is women don't have to do that anymore. With the advent of birth control, they have options. And are we going to force them away from those options? Are we going to collapse to a point where we no longer have the pharmaceutical capabilities of doing birth control? I just don't foresee that happening. Okay. So anyway, to get my mind back more positively, we've got I'm dealing with two main issues here. First issue can be addressed with the basic universal income. Oh, I just looked at the time. I'm running out of time. I want to keep these less than 15 minutes. But so, that ought to drive some people really nuts. They've been campaigning against supporting mothers to have children, to have more children at government expense. But times change, okay? Those will be the same people who will be demanding that we somehow make women have more children, have them married, get them married and pregnant. Not an option, I don't think, in these days. The other option is, or the other part of the problem is, make it a more viable option for women to have more children, for couples to have larger families, which requires, I don't know, offhand, less time at work, more time off. We might have to adapt a cultural set of standards that emphasize free time, especially if you have children. And to say, well, you have to have children to have all this free time, then you get a different type of inequality. So you almost have to develop a society that has a lot less time working and a lot more time for leisure. So, so I'm up. This is going to be longer than I thought. I'm going to add a part 2 in here where I actually look at a fantastical solution that I've thought about recently. So that will be my next video, which I'll have coming out tomorrow. Until then, see you. Bye.